about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Welcome to the best soccer show. The best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. Jason Davis, a favorite Jason Davis, and Jared Dubois, back with you talking American soccer. We're back for the first time since MLS Cup.
I know, since you crashed on my futon.
I did. I crashed on your futon with a million-degree air blast every morning. What was that all about?
I'll tell you, but we put you up in like the smallest room in my house, and it has its own dedicated air vent. It's actually the room I'm recording in right now. And I'm telling you, when I record shows and my wife turns the heater on, it blows me out of this room. I get so mad. And and it automatically comes on like at 5 a.m. to make sure the house is warm, and we just killed you with heat.
Well, I got a little taste of the California mentality when it comes to weather, and I was not impressed. I was just not impressed.
Wait, are you talking about because it rained instead of being sunshine?
Look, it rained a little bit. It was, you know what? It can't even be called chilly. It wasn't even chilly. Like, that's why the hot air in the morning, the blast of hot air kind of surprised me, is because it didn't even seem uncomfortable in the house. Like, if my house was that temperature before the thing kicked on, I would have been like, oh, this is perfect. I don't need to touch the thing. This is exactly where I want it.
Deal well with non-70. It's like sub 70 degrees. Sub 70 degrees really like wrecks our world.
No, I understand that. And look, luckily for us and for all of the fans out there at the Home Depot Center on Saturday, the weather kind of broke just in time for the game because it was raining. You and I were hanging out. We talked to a bunch of people. We were at the tailgating and everything else, and the weather kind of broke just as the game was getting ready to kick off. And there was a wind, and I did put my jacket on at one point, or my polo.
You did have your jacket on, you hypocrite.
I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm just saying. So there was a little bit of a chill, but otherwise it was perfect. And I thought that game came off without a hitch. Obviously, the first year of playing the MLS Cup final at the home of the higher seed, Jared, just so happened it was the same place as last year. You got to go to both games. Why don't you just talk to, I think what people will be wondering about, the differences between the neutral site game, which is what last year was supposed to be, and it depended on who played, obviously, and the home hosted game this year.
I think one of the biggest differences is what the crowd was made up of. I mean, last year, it seemed like a lot of neutrals. I think they had the same kind of mentality as when you have like a Super Bowl or something like that, where if you know it's going to be dedicated one site ahead of time. A lot of corporations buy tickets. A lot of businesses buy tickets for the spectacle, for entertaining clients, for giveaways to their employees, whatever it might be. By having it this way in only 2 weeks to sell the event, you're selling then to people that are interested in that game, right. Not in the spectacle, not anything like that. And I think you really felt it in the second half, especially. In the first half, the game bogged down. The crowd kind of bogged down with it. I think it started off really raucous in there, kind of subsided in the second half. I said it on Twitter at the time. I don't think any first-time fan or first-time soccer goer left that stadium unconverted on the day.
I like that. First-time soccer goers out there at the ACC. And like you talk about real fans or whatever the case may be in the situation with LA, 2 weeks notice, LA hosting the game. Season ticket holders. I mean, I don't know how they handled it last year. I'm sure a lot of season ticket holders got into the game, but
all season ticket holders got their tickets to the game, and we knew ahead of time. And I got 2 tickets to the game, and like a lot of people, because you didn't know if your team was going to make it, I think some people may even kind of sold them ahead of time or given away ahead of time because they didn't know if LA was going to be the team there or not.
Right. So this year, obviously, came off without a hitch. You and I took in the game. No, do we want to talk about the actual result? I mean, I guess congratulations are in order for Jared Dubois. Back-to-back titles.
Because I did it.
No, but you're a fan, and you obviously take joy in the fact that your team won a title. I mean, how could you not? Tough break for the Houston Dynamo to lose that game twice in a row. And I thought they played fairly well. I tended to be of the opinion that LA controlled the game throughout. I won't say dominated, Jared. They didn't dominate that game.
I think that's fair. I think that LA had the better of it for the most part. I think in no way was the Dynamo like a wilting team out there like that. What I will say though is that this game was set up for Don Kinnear and the Houston Dynamo in the second half. I mean, this is a team that never lost when scoring first. One of the best coached, well-disciplined defenses in the entire league. Goes into halftime with the 1-0 lead. This is Dom Kinnear time. This second half should have been Dom Kinnear time.
Well, let's talk about the goal, Caitlin Carr's goal. Very, very nicely taken goal. In fact, except for maybe, except for I don't know who is, except for maybe Omar Gonzalez, who won MVP. Excuse me. Caitlin Carr might have been the best player on the field until he goes out with that injury. By the way, reports today that's an ACL. No word on when surgery will be, but that's a tough break for Caitlin Carr.
He went down kind of in front of where you and I were sitting. You could tell right away that it was serious.
It was funny because he managed not to injure himself jumping over the corner flag after his goal. Yeah. And come on, that's impaling waiting to happen. Like, okay, Caitlin Carr's got some hops. I don't know you want to mess with that area.
I got too much hang down to work. I mean, I can't be like, even if I clear it by like a good few inches, I mean, there's still danger there.
Yeah, still danger. I
got to wear baggy shorts, Jason Davis.
Well, let's talk about Omar Gonzalez and his performance. I was incredibly impressed. I mean, they make you vote for MVP in what, the 70? They give you the ballot in the 70th minute, and they make you turn it in by the 80th minute. So there are 10 minutes of game left. I mean, if the Dynamo had somehow turned that around, scored 2 goals, and somebody had become a hero, it would have been tough luck because Omar Gonzalez has had already gotten his name put in. Yeah. I'm guessing it was not unanimous. Everybody's got subjective measures of how everybody played, but he was dominant in the air. I mean, I don't think he lost a ball in the air all day. He obviously scored the goal, the equalizer, to get LA back.
There really was only one mistake Omar made on the whole day, and that was the missed step up that led to the Caitlin Carr goal. I mean, right. Tommy Meyer's always going to look like he was at fault there because he was the closest defender to him. But if you look at the replays, Omar, and it was just barely he didn't step up. I mean, he didn't miss it by much. But it was Omar Gonzalez did basically setting the line, the high line right there, and they get beat. And if you look at LA and one area that you're always going to be able to probably beat LA on, it's speed. And if they choose to run a high line, that's the danger that an LA defense is taking. And Caitlin Carr, I mean, Houston played to their strengths. Caitlin Carr's speed, great service over the top, and he put it away. Some people faulting Josh Saunders there. I kind of get what Saunders is doing there. You know, you play the percentage, and the percentage is the back post hit, right?
Yeah, but Tommy Meyer is on Caitlin Carr's hip. I don't think he's going to be able to swing around and hit that ball to the opposite post, to the far post. So I think Saunders did make a mistake. I think he did go to ground way too early. I think he probably could have held his ground, and I don't know if he makes the save. I mean, it was a good shot, but he certainly gets a hand on that ball, and that would have made it a different game.
It was definitely savable. Let's just say that.
Yes, definitely savable. So Josh Saunders, not the MVP, but it doesn't matter. In the end, his team came through. It was the Omar Gonzalez header. David Beckham takes a free kick. The ball comes out to Janino, and MLS Soccer to put together an excellent whatever. Who's the videographer? 3 dimes.
Oh, Scott Riddell, 3 dimes.
Put together an excellent little video where
that is the sickest. I mean, they had the greatest super slow mo in that play. I mean, that was a ridiculously good shot, and just the artistry in Janino's posture and the service of that ball. It doesn't look anything special live, but when you watch that super slow mo, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we were on the far end of the field from where that was in the auxiliary press box. Yeah, believe it or not, guys, we do not get central press box location.
There's 400 credentialed media for 50 seats.
I know, but it was funny because you and I were in the auxiliary, and there were maybe there were like 30 seats there, maybe, and only about half of them full. So I don't know. I mean, 400 credential media, but not all of them showed up for whatever reason.
I was perfectly fine with what we got.
No, I was absolutely fine with the way it worked out, but I'm just saying from our vantage point, we were directly behind the Houston Dynamo supporters,
which I found kind of entertaining, being directly behind the supporters section.
Let me give a round of applause to the Houston Dynamo supporters. Yeah. They put on an absolute show. I don't know how many were there, 1,000 or whatever it was, 2,000. It seemed like a lot. They showed up in force. They sang the entire way. Omar Gonzalez equalizes that game with that goal in whatever minute that was. What was it, 65th, something in that area?
Somewhere in that area, yeah.
And the Dynamo fans never skipped a beat. They didn't stop singing. And it was very, very impressive. At the end of the day, there were some interesting security things happening. They let off a smoke bomb, but I was thoroughly impressed. So, just a lot of love to the Houston Dynamo.
Yeah, also another issue where one of the Texas and Armin guys went through the auxiliary press box with a beer in his hand, yelling at reporters. Like, that was kind of odd. I'm not sure how security let that happen. But a few things like that. First of all, I can tell you as someone that goes to HTC all the time, traveling away support usually gets one section right
Right.
below where you and I were sitting. For the Houston Dynamo, they had given them 3 full sections, and they even bled out into half a fourth and half a fifth on either side as well. It was a really big contingent. Huge shout out to the Houston traveling supporters. Really cool. And we actually got to meet a few of them. We got to meet up with a few listeners that listened to us from the Houston Dynamo area. Got to meet up with a few listeners from the LA area. Got to meet up with Chris Donahue, who sent us that email, one of the American Outlaws founders. Really good time getting to meet a lot of the people that listen to the show.
Yeah, we went out. That was the day of the game, and we went around and met some people with it. The days leading up to the game, obviously we did a show on Friday. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's audio only right now on the site, but go check it out. We did set up in the press box. It was a very cool experience. I'm not sure that the quality is the best. I mean, considering what we were working with, I thought it came off very well. And thank you to Richard Farley and Dan Wiersma for coming on the show. And talking to us about culture and Dan's situation with you, and Richard with X's and O's and that kind of thing with me, tactics and the like. We did get the chance to go to the Bumpy Pitch Party, which was very cool, very dark and very loud, but very cool. And this is
it was the most Jason Davis, the most unenjoyable person there. You hate that atmosphere. You hate that atmosphere.
Look, I've been in that atmosphere plenty of times. It was just at that point I don't know, whatever it was, tired. I don't know why. I was fine. I had a lot of good conversations with a lot of excellent people, writers, soccer writers all over the country. I met George Karashi, very, very nice guy. I had a long conversation with him. But what I wanted to get to, because I'm about to make a controversial statement, Jared.
What's that?
Okay. So after the Bumpy Pitch Party, we go back. Your wife, by the way, am I allowed to share the news? Is that on the show stuff?
What, about her being pregnant?
Yes, there you go.
Oh, yeah. I think we had said it like a week ago. I think we said it on the show already.
Maybe we did. I just forgot. I want to make sure. This kind of thing that people like to keep private sometimes. Jared's wife's pregnant. She didn't drink. She was our designated driver. When you're out late night and you've had some drinks, what do? You hit up the fast food spot, right? You've got to hit a fast food spot.
Yeah, and you expect your pregnant wife to drive your drunk butt home.
And being LA and me being visiting from the East Coast and never having had the experience, you guys made sure to take me to In-N-Out Burger, which is famous.
Yes.
I mean, In-N-Out Burger, people swear by this stuff. Best burgers on the planet. Okay. You ordered me a burger. I was not that impressed. I'm sorry. It was okay. It wasn't.
Listen, here's the thing. Here's what you do, though. You pull up, you're like, oh, order for me. Like, well, I know what you want.
No, okay, but I told you that I wasn't picky, that it didn't matter. Look, I'm not saying that there was stuff on. Well, the pickles were overwhelming. That was basically what it came.
I got you animal style. That was my problem. I got you animal. I thought you were a real man. I got you some animal style. I don't even order animal style. But I was an error in judgment. Listen, I was drunk, dude.
I'm just with you.
I had a lot of scotch at that point.
No, I realized that. You were chatting it up.
Johnny Walker ordered your food, not me.
Very good. Very good. We did have on the outline in this segment to talk about Club Tijuana and LA potentially playing a game. This is just an idea. It's nothing. There's nothing serious. I did see a quote today from Bruce Arena that said he would love to do this, but he's not going to do it at Cholo's home. He can't abide by the turf that they've got there, which I'm not familiar with, but apparently it's very, very bad. So I don't know where this game would be. I mean, you could do it in San Diego. I think that would be a nice split, closer to Tijuana. But
wait. You need to back up and kind of define what you're talking about. You're talking about them meeting in the CCL?
No, I'm talking about a kind of a Super Cup one-off friendly kind of situation. Just
and they have played before. They played, I think it was a year ago or just a year and a half ago. That was when. That's the first time any of us really saw Joe Corona. That was it was down in San Diego. I think it was played down at USD's pitch down there, I believe. And I think for a lot of people that went down there, I know Luis Bueno, he was down there for that game. He came back saying, you got to see this kid Joe Corona play. Right. And that was one of the first times I had really heard about him, to kind of find out who this guy was. And he's gone with them all the way from second division Mexican football to winning the Liga MX title. I mean, it's a great story, first of all. And and the fact that there's 3 Americans taking part in it is huge. Greg Garza, Edgar Castillo, Joe Corona. Great story here. And it actually happened while MLS Cup weekend was going on. I wish I had even thought to connect the dots. Maybe you and I could have gone down to Tijuana, seen that game. I know a couple of the Goal.com guys went down there. Seth Vertalny, Zach Lee Rigg, they went down there. They took in the game. They said it was amazing atmosphere. Said Joe Corona was kind of playing the center of midfield in like a 4-3-3 kind of formation. I'm really excited to see this kid has made a huge leap at whether or not he should be a part of the U.S. men's national team program. Not even talking about fringe, maybe this guy needs to be part of it.
You hijacked my topic. I was going to talk about a potential friendly. I think it would be very cool to match up champions, both of them champions now, Club Tijuana and LA Galaxy. But let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll get to some
more meaningless friendlies. That's what this needs.
Well, I just think that would be a very special one. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. Jason and Jared back on the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. We will open the phone lines. I mean, they were open in the first segment, but now we'll open them for real. 201-430-2378 is the phone number. If you want to get in, MLS Cup thoughts, I suppose, Club Tijuana, LA Galaxy friendly. I mean, the thing about it is, we threw it out. I threw it out on Twitter. It's been around. People, it's not like an original idea on my part, but I did say it would be fun. And I got some responses. People said, without Landon or David Beckham, is that really a game that anybody cares to see? But
why is it out without Landon Donovan?
Well, I mean, you imagine he's going to take a break. So if they decided to do this in December, for example, he's not going to be around.
There's no way it's happening in December. I mean, this team's taking off to Qatar or Qatar, whatever the hell you want to call it these days. They canceled their postseason trip this year. Did they really?
Yes, they did. Todd Donovan said, we're very excited about that. I don't think anybody wanted to go.
I did not see that. I did not see it. Last I had heard, they were still going. So, okay, then maybe they do have the time. But yeah, if it's going to be in December, then you wouldn't see someone like Landon Donovan. Here's the thing, though. I don't see what do these clubs have to gain from it? I'd rather see them get pitted against each other in CCL next year. I think that's the cool thing to see.
That would be lovely, but that's a kind of a random thing. That's by chance. We're talking about a Super Cup game. That idea between two champions who happen to be in the same geographical area, roughly. And
are you talking about like every year having these two teams go up against each other, the winner of both? Or are you just saying just because it's these two teams?
Just because it's these two teams and they're champions. I'm not even making it like a regular thing. I'm not even saying that it should be MLS Cup champion and this part of the Mexican season champion every year. I'm not even saying that. I mean,
I like that idea better.
Well, maybe. I mean, if you want to make it a tradition, I'm not taking it to that level. I can see that happening, and that would be a good idea, almost like a Superliga kind of thing, but with a one-off situation. You play 2 legs. I don't know, whatever works for the teams involved. But it's got to be lucrative. It's got to make sense.
But I will say there is a really unique opportunity here, though, when you talk about Xolos down in Tijuana, and you have LA Galaxy here in LA. It's a 2-hour drive between those two clubs. San Diego's right in the middle. This is a good idea to get a little pulse on the soccer community in San Diego, which consistently comes in number 1 with TV rankings that you see all the time. Yeah, and I mean, I tell you, as a guy that lived in San Diego for 5 years, they're not necessarily a go out and participate sporting culture, though.
Right. Did you know that that Cholo's championship made the front page of the San Diego Union Tribune? Did you know that?
I did not know that, but it does not surprise me at all.
That's a.
There's a very unique chemistry and combination between those two cities, and I tell you, as someone that lived there, it's almost a blurred line between the two. So many people cross that border for work every day, legitimately for work every day. That they really do have a nice kind of ecosystem there, and if Xolos can play this correctly, San Diego market could become their market. It really is that easy to go over there and watch those games.
It makes you wonder if San Diego is potentially going to lose out on an MLS expansion. I mean, I'm not saying they're on they're on the list right now, but let's say down the road MLS decides, we're going to go to 24, 26, whatever. You could imagine San Diego maybe not being on the list because of what Club Tijuana is doing with that market. I may say, the MLS powers that be may say, look, they've already got a team. Yeah, okay, maybe it's across the border in Mexico, but it's right there. They've got Anglo fans crossing the border to go watch Xolos. That's a big deal. That's indicative of, like you said, kind of a cross-cultural exchange that shows just how well they've captured that audience there in the San Diego.
The only thing that hurts Xolos when it comes to a PR standpoint is if you talk to anyone that is a Mexican League fan, anyone here in Southern California, they all know that team is run by Mexican mafia money. It is. That's a legitimate statement. I mean, so that's the only thing that's going to hurt it from a marketing standpoint here in the U.S. is it's always such a talking point anyway about the border communities and that kind of thing. As we talked about when we talked about Ciudad Juarez, which is an entirely different kind of thing, but it's going to hurt it from a marketing standpoint. And there is that legitimate. Some people in Southern California fear going down across that border. I'm a person that I go down there. I have no problem with it, but it really is kind of a cool thing. I don't know if a San Diego MLS team will help or hurt what Xolos is trying to do down there. But right now, I think they're doing a really good job of capturing the San Diego soccer community. And if they do that, that's a really cool deal. And I do like the idea, like you said, of LA, Tijuana, that kind of battle right there. The funny thing is, we're talking about that, and we're totally not even bringing Chivas USA into the conversation.
Well, that's how far
I know
USA has sidelined.
But they have the most legitimate reason to have any kind of rivalry with a team in Mexico.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely they do. How are they going to create one, though, unless you're just going to play a bunch of friendlies for no other reason than you happen to be, two teams with Mexican ties, and, you're right there. You're right next to each other. The news came down during the second leg of the Mexican final that Chivas Guadalajara had fired Johan Cruyff, which is out of the blue, complete.
Do they ever do a press release before 5 p.m.?
It was weird. The timing was weird, and it's just another sign that Vergara and that whole situation is such a disaster. It continues to reflect back upon Chivas USA. I mean, I think Guadalajara in the past has gotten through just on being Guadalajara. They're a massive, massive club, so they can kind of will their way into some kind of measure of success. They obviously have a good youth program, a good development academy, but this when you're talking about Chivas USA and kind of starting from scratch and trying to figure out the right approach, they cannot get their ducks in a row to save their lives. It's very interesting. Now, you said something about San Diego and how they consistently come in as one of the top markets for watching soccer in this country on television. Yeah. I feel like we have to mention it. I'm so tired of the discussion. I'm tired of the debate about MLS ratings. But it would be disingenuous for us not to point out that the MLS Cup final got a 0.7, which is terrible. I mean, I think that's like 5 guys a dog, and your Aunt Sally. That's it. That's everybody.
What are you more tired? What are you more tired of? Are you tired of ratings talk or ratings excuses?
Well, I don't know that there are excuses. I think it's natural to create.
No. There's always I always hear people say like, oh, it's a 0.7, but oh, it's a 0.9, but.
You can't fault. Look, we know what's happening in the stands, right? MLS. By the way, the MLS playoffs average 22,000 fans a game. That's very very impressive. That's obviously indicative of people being engaged with this league. But this continues to be a very local experience when it comes to American soccer, and that's not translating to MLS. I mean, I don't think Sporting Kansas City fans flipped on their television, season ticket holders. Flip it on their television to watch LA and Houston. I think that, but
for some reason, I almost feel that's almost a positive, because that means that these clubs are building such viable fans and vehement opposition to other teams that you don't even tune in for another team's match. You only tune in for yours. But it hurts.
Passion is good. Creating that
hurts the national television audience scene. But when you look out into the stadium every week, it's full. Or at least full to a point that's even more than a lot of NBA franchises, more than some baseball franchises.
Yes, there are clubs struggling, obviously, but overall MLS is very healthy at the gate. The problem, and this is why it continues to come up, is that the gate receipts do not drive the kind of spending that's going to take MLS to the next level. If Don Garber wants to say we want to be one of the top leagues in the world in 20 years, well, the money has got to show up for them to go spend on the type of player that can get them to that level, and it's got to come through TV. There's just no other stream of revenue that can push that change in the direction they want to go. So now this is why in New York too is popping up, and I've got that on the list. We could talk about.
Before you do, while you're talking about money in MLS, I want to get to a couple things. First of all, obviously, LA Galaxy getting $50 million for their TV rights is ridiculously more than any other franchise out there.
What's the length of that contract? It's like a 20-year contract, right?
It's a 2.5. For some reason, I thought it was 10, but I'm not positive. I'm not positive on that. And it's for English and Spanish rights.
Right. So they're not splitting those, so you're not talking about...
Which is why a lot of and Tim Lewicki's even said this, that the expectation is that they bring in a Spanish language star to replace David Beckham, because they need to meet this new cable audience that that basically Time Warner's putting the money in their pocket for.
Explain to me how the name they're being batted about right now, and it's come out of Lewicki's mouth, is Kaká. He's not Spanish language. I mean... I know he's from Latin.
I think he's engaging to a Spanish language audience. I think that's what is
engaging to a Spanish language. Okay, I can't speak to that because I'm not
for Real Madrid. Former Real Madrid player. Sure. I mean, there is that Brazilian influence that kind of crosses those lines. But obviously, he speaks Portuguese, not Spanish. There is that. But does that mean maybe you go after someone like a Diego Forlan or something like that? There's other options out there, you know. Yeah. But when you talk about money, and I wanted to boil this back down to MLS Cup in a way. How can a Houston Dynamo keep up with an LA Galaxy when LA Galaxy has the $50 million TV deal, is getting CCL money, and MLS Cup? There's so much allocation money going to the LA Galaxy right now. Look at Real Salt Lake. Look what happens to good teams when they don't get that money. Is that knife that cutting that thin, that the drop off? I mean, how tumultuous will these teams be year to year if the allocation money is all that separates them from success?
No, I see what you're saying, and you're stoking those flames of Dynamo righteous indignation when it comes to AEG, by the way. And I thought they were on the verge of selling that team, and there was reports that the Rockets owner in Houston was going to buy the Houston Dynamo. Ultimately, they decided not to sell to him for whatever reason, and I'm not, because I don't know the details of that, I'm not going to judge whether that was a good or a bad idea. But they've said they're going to hold on to the team, that they're happy with it. Now, AEG itself is for sale as a whole, and I don't know what will happen after that sale happens. But for the time being, Dynamo fans are not happy. This situation continues to crop up, Jared. The Galaxy are the big California club that are preferred by AEG, and the Dynamo are the team in the middle of the country nobody remembers, and they kind of have.
Yeah, if you ask Dynamo fans, the only reason AEG holds on to the Dynamos is when they meet in MLS Cup, they can tank it and let LA win.
Well, obviously that's not what happened. I mean, I don't think
that's not what happened. But I see people being so overreaction, and I really do believe. I believe and I think we may have said that on our last show, Houston Dynamo got a lot of due. They got a lot of due
Sure.
and a lot of respect in the press and with fans that I've talked to about this campaign versus last year's campaign. It's impressive. It's really impressive. And it's even more impressive when we talk about the topic we were just talking about, which was they're doing it with so much less money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how long is this league going in a direction right now where the Houston Dynamo, a team like that, can continue to compete with an LA Galaxy or even like let's say for
the issue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but as long as there is a salary budget and the difference you're talking about in spending is down to 1, 2, or 3 players, that does not make enough of a difference for the Dynamo not to be able to compete with the LA Galaxy. You know what I'm saying? So the Dynamo can go out and get Oscar Boniek Garcia and make themselves a better team, even if LA goes and signs Kaká. Kaká is one player. We saw what happened in New York. They had Sierra Henry and Rafa Marquez, and they got added Tim Cahill this year, and that didn't give them anything. They got them into the playoffs, and then they crashed out. And in the end, and this is why playoffs are still here, because maybe overall over the course of a season, if you can buy depth. But again, the salary budget is the salary budget, Jared. It's just too hard.
But what's interesting to me, though, when you talk about allocation money, and allocation money is always this big mystery thing. I mean, no one really understands it. But when you talk about so San Jose Earthquakes, they're going to have a bunch of salary cap money that they can, allocation money they can use going into next season.
Wait, how? Why? How?
Because they want Supporter Shield winners, and they'll have CCL money versus last year.
So
they're gonna have a bigger budget to play with this year than they did last year. If you're San Jose, though, how do you use that money? If you can know it can only be for one season, you have to replicate what you did this year to continue to have that money at your disposal. It's almost a double-edged sword because you go out and buy these players, and Real Salt Lake had to put together a great run of 3 years of consistently making the CCL to make that team that they had. How long can these teams really compete?
This is not a thing that happens anywhere else. You don't see Arsenal dismantle. I mean, they have to add and try to build, and they're not, they're constantly tweaking. And the same thing, Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea and everybody else. You don't see teams dismantled because they find themselves over their salary limit. Seattle's dealing with the same thing as well. They've got at least, a couple $100,000 they have to find to try to get themselves compliant with the salary cap. And that's going to mean either trading somebody that's probably pretty good, because really, if you think about it, you're not, if you're a couple $100,000 over the cap, you're going to have to trade a guy that makes $100,000 just to try to put that. You're not going to trade 5 guys to make that difference up. So it is difficult. It is interesting. I mean, if allocation money through CCL and everything else can help you compete in those competitions, great. But like you said, if you don't continue to stay on that level and you get it all kind of taken back, you find yourself having
it could make season to season very tumultuous for a lot of these smaller teams that don't have a big budget and they rely on the allocation money. So that means San Jose Earthquakes can bring in a really good name this year and then have to release them the very next year, or release a lot of their homegrown talent that to equate to the amount of money that they lost in allocation if they can't replicate the next season. And then what are you doing to the grassroots of your club in terms of players you're bringing up, the building that you're doing? LA has been extremely lucky in that they've drafted so damn well to counteract all the big player signings that they have and all the big salary cap stuff that they have. Real Salt Lake has done a lot of similar things, but I'm nervous about where this league is going if allocation money if teams have to rely so heavily on allocation money, because you see it all the time. When it gets to the CCL, the teams aren't good enough. They can't compete with the Liga MX teams.
Yeah, if they were, maybe it'd be a different story. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, NASNradio.com. Don't go anywhere, guys. Be right back. Jason and Jared back on the best soccer show on the North American Soccer Network at ASN.TV.
You know what I was doing before we started the show tonight?
Do I want to know? Oops.
Yeah, you can know. So I was watching Home Alone.
Okay, yeah. It's on all over the place. My kid was watching it.
When you think of Home Alone, do you think of it as a Christmas movie?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure do.
I guess I don't know for some reason. I don't know why I don't think of it as a same thing with Plane, Trains, and Automobile. I don't think of it as like a Thanksgiving movie.
Well, there are only like 3 Thanksgiving movies. What Thanksgiving besides? See,
oh God, is there another one?
Dutch is a Thanksgiving movie.
Oh God, I haven't seen Dutch in so long.
Which I happen to like, but it's not for everybody. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still out there. So
I'm watching it on ABC Family, right? And so one thing I hate about holidays, so there's a few Christmas movies that they're my quintessential Christmas movies, like Christmas Vacation, Scrooged, Christmas Story, those ones right there, Right. You can even go further back with This Wonderful Life. What I hate every year now is that Lifetime and ABC Family feel the need to try to make the next Christmas movie.
Oh, I know. Look, I said this on Twitter when, in fact, this is Home Alone related. It's like Home Alone franchise. Like they sold the rights to the Home Alone name and made an entirely new movie. Obviously, new kid. Macaulay Culkin's like 50 now, and it's like it was that cheesy made for TV movie trailer. Like his parents left home for the holidays.
I think we hit rock bottom. I think we finally hit rock bottom because I saw that they made a Christmas movie with Tori Spelling.
Yeah, I saw that.
Called Mistletones.
Yeah,
it's like a singing group called the Mistletones.
Look at us, family guys, watching ABC Family, seeing all the same commercials.
Well, that's where the Christmas movies were. Okay, it was Elf, and then there was Home Alone. I'm gonna tune in for that.
Okay, yeah, right. I'm not a big fan of Elf, by the way. It's okay.
Oh, come on.
It's okay.
Did I tell you I watched one on Lifetime recently though?
Oh,
I watched a Christmas movie on Lifetime.
Which one?
Because for one reason only, it starred Winnie Cooper.
Okay,
and it's called Love at a Christmas Table or something like that. I watched it all the way through, dude. Just for Winnie Cooper.
No, look, but here's the thing about them, and I'm going to take a shot at my own league here. I bet you all of them do better in the ratings than MLS.
Oh, you're probably right.
I'm sure they.
Listen, if Winnie Cooper was kicking a soccer ball, I'd watch.
Well, yeah, of course you would. All right, we mentioned the beginning of the transaction season. Look, I've seen Americans throw the word silly season around, the phrase silly season around, Jared. I think of that as a European thing. Summer, not really January, but the summer window. It's silly season when all the rumors start popping up. Is the American, because we do things so differently. We do trades for one thing. James Olave and Fabian Espindola go to New York for allocation money. Kosuke Kimura goes to New York for allocation money and the rights to some homegrown player. We might touch on that, which is an interesting development. Who am I missing? The RSL Will Johnson to Portland for allocation money. These are not strictly speaking. I mean, you could argue the allocation money is cash in a way, but we don't know what the amount is. They're not strictly speaking transfers. I don't know that we got any rumors. They just happened. Silly season to me relates to the rumors that you get. Okay, the Kaká thing, I guess, fine. But Will Johnson and James Olave and Fabian Espindola, those are not silly.
Well, there's another one that just went down today, the little silly season. Luis Fabiano maybe going to DC United.
Right. So look, those rumors are out there. And I guess if you want to call it silly season for that, fine. But I just feel like we need something MLS specific, American, something that feels that kind of encapsulates the madness of the transaction. Because I mean, literally,
I don't understand why we need a different. You hate Europe so much, you can't even use the same phrase.
It's not about that. I'm just.
You said it was like that. That's how you started the conversation. They have this phrase, and it's not American.
It's not even that. It's not like exceptionalism. It's not like I think we need our own American thing. I'm just saying it's not the same. So there's a fundamental difference between the way the two things are happening. So shouldn't that mean a different?
Okay, how about the American swap-tacular? What do you want? I don't know.
Okay, you're not even trying. I didn't realize I was going to be coming up against such opposition here on this issue.
Okay, well, listen. Okay, if you don't like the name, that's fine. The fact of the matter is, stuff is going down. There's stuff going on all over the place, and I want to start off with, because I think this is a huge trade. The Olave and Espindola for allocation money. That is some of the biggest pieces in MLS moving around, and I gotta say, I think it works for both teams, doesn't it?
I think so. Absolutely. I mean, obviously New York gets a quality center back when he's healthy. Let's just say that. Hamas Olave, a little bit of injury prone recently. Fabian Espindola will bust his ass. He might not score a ton of goals, but he'll get a couple.
I gotta say, as Fabian Spindola is the answer to Luke Rogers not being there anymore. He's Luke Rogers with an accent in his name. You know, like he plays almost exactly the way Luke Rogers does. Hustles, dirty, gonna do whatever he has to do to get onto the end of a ball, and that's what Thierry Henry thrived around. And Luke Rogers was there before, which further puts Kenny Cooper on the back burner. The way I see it.
Well, I've had reports out of New York that Kenny Cooper is being shopped by the Red Bulls. I think you're right, though. I think anything that takes the work rate burden off of Thierry Henry is good for the Red Bulls, and that's what Fabian Espindola can do for them. And you mentioned from the both teams benefit. The RSL end, they've got guys that can step in. Are they as proven? Yeah. Necessarily, I mean, I don't know up front.
No. But RSL has shown themselves to be a center back factory. I mean, if you think about Hamas Olave, they found Hamas Olave. They got Nat Borchers when he came back from Europe after trialing with LA. They find Chris Schuler. They find Watson Sirabu. How do you say his last name?
Watson Sirabu. Very good.
Is it Sirabu?
Sirabu, whatever.
Yeah, and then that's not even including McKinsey, who they shipped off to Chivas USA. They've done great with center backs. If you look at their depth, and the first thing I'm sure what Garth Lagerwey and Jason Christ did when they sat down is where are we deepest, where can we make the biggest cut? And as hard as it must be for RSL fans to see Olave go, they got to know that is the most logical sense to cut some cap space.
I don't know what he was making, but it couldn't have been a small amount of money, and obviously they need to, like you said, they've got to get some of that salary off of their budget in order to try to form their team for next year. And I said that when the season when RSL's season ended against Seattle, and they were going to have to do this, we knew it was coming. I said, now we'll know how good Garth Lagerwey and Jason Christ really are, because we're going to see them put together another team. And they did it once. Can they do it again? Can they put together another team? Now, you know, they kind of got their championship early. They really weren't ready for it, but
it's almost an accidental. I mean, they came in, I think, the 8th seed that year, as so many teams seem to do this year lately, and win MLS Cup from the 8th seed. I think even they were probably surprised by their success to a certain point, and it started that great run of, like we said, cap money, allocation money. It started right there with that team. And a lot of those guys were kind of homegrown, like less respected. If you think about someone like a Will Johnson, not a big name in MLS when they won that. Kyle Beckerman, been around the league, but wasn't considered a real big asset in this league at that point. These guys have grown. Nick Raimondo was a cast off from DC United, right? And comes in and becomes one of the best keepers in the, I mean, you could argue he's one of the best even then, but disrespected for his height and his skills. So this RSL team has been built. And they're having to do a really big dismantling right now. And it's unfortunate. They're going to see some of their big names go. I'm kind of surprised they chose to keep Javi Morales as their centerpiece, because he didn't look quite like himself last season, coming off the big knee injury from the year before. And I also feel they have players coming up in a Luis Gil that can maybe start taking those reins off of Morales.
Luis Gil is going to step into Will Johnson's role immediately. That's the guy that's going to step into to replace Will Johnson. So keep an eye on RSL and see how they formulate a plan for 2013. I'm going to go out for a little bit further west in Portland, and what they did, they shipped Kosuke Kimura to New York. It didn't work out for Kimura. That was a bad situation.
Not at all.
Could not seem to find his legs there. So he's out the door. Maybe he gives New York a new option there in defense. But what Caleb Porter did, what he got back, the rights to Brian Gallego, who plays at Akron, who is Portland. I mean, is Porter done? Is he still coaching that team right now? I mean, you imagine he's got some.
I mean, the tournament's still going on. Their season's done, but this just reeks of shadiness to me. Am I the only person that sees this as shady? It almost seems like it's violating NCAA rules, because that means, okay, here's the thing. Caleb Porter was officially coach of Portland while he was still with Akron. So that means that there's a professional coach working with these kids, and now that professional coach has traded for the rights of his college player. There's no way. I mean, if Gallegos doesn't come out as a professional this year,
you're shocked.
Couldn't this really ruin his eligibility?
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't put anything past the NCAA, so it's possible they would look into it or whatever. But I mean, I think it's more a factor of, okay, he probably, obviously Caleb Porter knows that Brian Gallego is going to come out. And he wants him in Portland if he obviously likes him as a player. New York's got his rights as a homegrown player. And he trades. I don't know about NCAA eligibility. I don't really know how that would necessarily affect that. I do think it's interesting though that maybe Brian Gallego wasn't going to come out. Maybe he was going to play another year in school, but because Caleb Porter is now the Portland Timbers head coach, he'll come out now. And I don't know that there's anything necessarily shady about that either. It's just odd. And the idea that you can trade the rights to a homegrown player, Jared, I'm not sure about that one. Does that seem odd to you?
I don't. I guess it doesn't seem like an odd practice to me because I feel like baseball does that already, don't they? With kids in their farm system, yeah, they kind of move those things around. So it seems like one more Listen, MLS, you don't have a lot to bargain with. Okay, the players can't freely move. I mean, there's a lot of restrictions. If this is one more thing that teams and GMs can use as a bargaining chip, I'm kind of okay with that. It's just the rights to a player. But here's the thing. It's a huge risk for any team that wants to participate in this type of dealing because if you look at DC United. Who's the kid that they had the rights to that spurned him a couple years ago? Just before draft day, went overseas.
I couldn't remember the incident, but I honestly don't remember.
I apologize. I'm forgetting his name as well. But that's the kind of thing you could be dealing with here is that 2 weeks before draft day, you think you have the rights to this kid and you've shipped like tangible players to another team for just basically ability to talk to this player first. And they go overseas at last minute. You got nothing to show for it.
What if it's a situation where Gallego was not going to sign with MLS until Portland got the rights and he would end up playing under Caleb Porter? I mean, that could be a win for the league overall, keeping young talent here. But we get to young talent, and the question pops up, well, once they get into MLS, is there a place for them to continue to develop? MLS teams are reticent to put out young players, Jared. They don't throw the keys at an 18-year-old and let him go. 18-year-old kids get pulled up from the academies all the time, end up wasting away on the bench. If you're an FC Dallas Academy product, run away. Don't come back because you're not going to play in MLS. And it makes you wonder what kind of long-term damage they're doing to their academy. Zach Pfeffer, look, now the Union have an odd situation. They don't have their own academy. They're just partnered with a bunch of clubs, big name youth club, youth soccer clubs. But it is odd. So they have Zach Pfeffer. They bring him in as a homegrown player. He plays a little bit, gets on the bench, doesn't get another shot. Now they've loaned him out to Hoffenheim for a calendar year. And is this really, is this an indictment of the MLS development program? Or is it just an odd situation, a one-off situation?
I understand. Why would it be an indictment if he's getting great experience overseas?
Of MLS and of the way MLS handles young players, because he said directly, reserve league is not enough. They play 10 games in the reserve league. That's not enough for him. He's got to get more games. I suggested that, well, why don't you loan him out to Harrisburg or wherever? And they said, well, I had a couple of people tell me, he's too small. He'd get roughed around, he'd get knocked over. It wouldn't be good for his development there. So send him to Germany. But it does say that, it does speak to the fact that MLS does not have a place for that bridge time. You come out of the academy at 18, because if they don't sign you at 18, they let you go. They sign, you come out of the academy at 18, but you're not ready to start in an MLS game or, in an MLS lineup. Coaches don't want to trust you yet. What do? You sit there and you waste away. You're not getting games. You're not getting better. And that's why
producer Trevor brings up a good point here that Joe Zhao was at Hoffenheim and he couldn't get any time and he got moved around. If Joe Zhao can't do it, is Zach Pfeffer really going to be that much better?
I don't think the idea is for Zach Pfeffer to be in the first team at Hoffenheim. That's way above his station. Yeah. The goal is for him to play in the youth sides to get actual game time.
Because the youth sides of Germany actually play in the lower divisions of Germany.
Yeah, because there will be games for him to have there. Whereas if he stays here, he's getting 10 reserve games and that's it. And maybe you can loan him out to, you can play in the summer with I guess not. I don't know what the situation is. You load him out to certain teams, but is that really going to be the right kind of quality?
In terms of Zach Pfeffer's development, this is a good move. Now, I understand that that's not your conversation. Your conversation is the Develop Academy doing its job if it has to loan a player out, correct?
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. I mean, I don't know that this one situation is some kind of massive indictment.
It goes back to a conversation you and I had a few months ago about why doesn't the development academies just play in the lower divisions of U.S. soccer? Why don't they play in a USL2 or something like that? So
it's a good question, and I've seen some hints that maybe there's some kind of relationship growing between MLS and USL Pro, and maybe they'll get there one day, and I'd like to see it. I don't know that the Pfeffer situation is an indictment of the whole situation, the entire country, because
the weird thing is, it's almost more of an indictment of Philly's situation because they don't even use the development system. They use, like you said, individual clubs at the lower level. So I mean. Does he even really have the infrastructure to play a normal development academy system like a RSL or an LA?
He's progressed past the point of just training every day with that whatever club in Philly. And if he was with a different club, say he was with DC United, he's past the point of he's better than playing with those kids there, the youth program at DC United. So now what's the next step? Where does he go? He can't go into MLS. He won't get any playing time. He'll ride the bench like he did once he got a couple of tastes. So now what do? You send him to Hoffenheim? Okay, fine. I think that's in this situation, and there may be some kind of agreement worked out with Hoffenheim because what do they have? What's in it for that?
The other side of it, why does it have to be Hoffenheim? MLS has used, before the development academies were even around, a lot of young players would get loaned out to NASL teams, USL teams. I remember Alan Gordon wasn't being used for a portion of time. He got played with Portland Timbers for a number of seasons.
And Alan Gordon was how old at that point? Alan Gordon was...
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't necessarily development cap. But for the players that aren't in immediate plans for teams, it's commonplace around the world to get loaned out to another one. I'm not that shocked by this, to be honest with you.
No, I'm not either. But I do think that, maybe beyond Zach Pfeffer, there is a question of where kids can get games and how MLS can bridge that gap and what they need to do to step up and fill it. All right, we're running quickly out of time here. We did want to touch on, we did want to get to some emails. Maybe really quick, like a minute here. Let's start with Andrew from Seattle. Just curious what it was like for you two actually being together in the same place during MLS Cup rather than being via the internet. Did you guys wear your podcasting headphone at first until you got comfortable talking to each other without them? Well, if you did watch the live show, which we did from the Home Depot Center, you did hear me say that I felt odd without headphones talking to Jared directly.
Yeah. It's just weird to hear you in one ear off the side of me and not hear you like in both ears. There was kind of odd dynamic of that, but overall, it's weird. It's because like that was the first time you and I ever met in person, and we got know each other for over doing the show together for a year and a half or so together in different incarnations. More than anything, it was just kind of cool to have you over at my house. Met my mom, met my wife, met my kid. And our kids talk to each other through Skype. After the shows are over and stuff. It was just kind of cool to have someone that's like a virtual friend be like kind of a real friend for a week.
Yeah, that's we stepped outside of the internet world. It is odd. Look, sports gives us the opportunity to do that, and I know people that meet on the internet get together and I don't really want to know what they do. Sports is kind of different. There's already a reason. Like, okay, there's a game. Let's all go to the game. Oh, you happen to be here too. Nice to meet you. I know you from Twitter. But it does change the dynamic when you actually meet
the oddest thing is meeting up with someone and saying your name and then going, oh, you don't know who that is? Let me tell you my Twitter name. Oh, now you know me.
Now you know who it is. Well, in 30 seconds or less, hey guys, I'm curious to hear your thoughts from Jake on the news that the Cosmos won't be participating in the NASL spring season. Should they be allowed to compete for the NASL championship? Yeah, I don't know if you heard this, Jared.
I did.
The New York Cosmos are jumping into the fall season next year. NASL is doing that weird split thing. I guess they're not ready to pull the trigger on the spring. I find it odd. I think it's weird. I think it makes the league look bad. I think it makes the Cosmos look bad. I don't know that they should be going for a championship if they don't play a full season.
Here's a different take on it. Did they make the split season so they could at least get the Cosmos for half?
That's interesting. Wow, that's some conspiracy theory type stuff right there.
I'm just saying, this is a big name that you want in your league. It's one of the hall.
Sorry about that. Sorry, go ahead.
You playing me out? Are you playing me out?
No. I was going to. I clicked the wrong button. So
well, then play me out. Fine then.
All right. You want me to play you out? Let's do that. All right. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. When we come back, we'll wrap this episode up. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois. Don't go anywhere, guys.
The nominees are CBSSports.com Fantasy Football Podcast, Locked on Jazz, The Best Soccer Show, the Dave Demeshek Football Program, The Steve Mathis Show, and Wrestling Soup. The winner is the Dave Dameshek Football Program.
Boo, we lost the Stitcher Awards.
Does it make any consolidation to you that we found out we were second?
Did you say consolidate? You meant consolation. You almost
consolation. Wow, I did say.
No, that is some consolation. Absolutely. I mean, there's an NBA podcast, and then there was another. We beat the Fantasy Football Podcast. We did.
That's pretty big.
Dameshek, Dave Dameshek, but we beat the Fantasy Football. But that was what we wanted, right? That's what we.
I mean, listen. Here's what it comes down to. Out of all the sports podcasts on Stitcher, we came in second. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. And Mark Maron said the name of our show, which I think is cool. I'm a Mark Maron fan. I love WTF. I'm going to treasure that clip until the internet blows up and I don't have it anymore. But
anyway, thanks to all the fans out there that voted. Obviously, a lot of you had to have done it to at least let us come in second. So really cool. I think we flew higher with wax wings than Too Close to the Sun, closer to the sun than we thought we'd ever get to.
We were I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but Dameshek is on his podcast is on NFL.com, right? That's serious.
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that's where his podcast is available. So
yeah, maybe, yeah.
You think about us coming in second to a podcast available on the website for the biggest sports league in America. I'm pretty proud of us, and I'm proud of our listeners for stepping up and helping us out. You guys did a magnificent job getting us up there and nearly nipping the best sports podcast.
Speaking of our listeners, though, we got a really nice email from a new listener, new to soccer, and they gave us an email. Do you mind reading that one real quick?
Yeah. No, you don't like to read the emails,
dude. You're better at reading stuff than I am.
All right, Jason and Jared, my name is Matthew. I live in Baltimore. I just wanted to write and tell you how much I enjoy listening to your soccer podcast. I know you guys talk about how soccer is growing in America, and I just wanted to send a short story and just how true that is. You're probably wondering why I emailed to say that. I feel like my soccer background is an interesting case. I'm 28. I didn't know anything about soccer until the 2010 World Cup. I mean, I knew about the game, but never played or watched on TV. I thought it was dumb. Not a dumb, non-American sport. I caught a match of the World Cup while I was at work one day. I actually took the time to watch it. My curiosity took over. I began reading and learning the laws of the game. After Donovan's goal against Algeria, I was hooked for life. Not only do I not miss a U.S. men's national team game now. Says you took a sick day for the Russia game. That's very good. I have become a soccer-hungry fan. I now captain an indoor team. I have read several soccer books, try to catch up on all things soccer I had missed for the first part of my life. I listen to multiple podcasts, drive my family and friends crazy with all of my soccer talk. It's a daunting task to try and understand the different league styles, tactics for a person used to American sports. Plus, learn to find the best news sources, not ESPN. Hey, come on now. I still haven't found a club team to root for. I secretly hope DC United will move to Baltimore, but I hope to find one soon. Anyway, just wanted to thank you for the work you do and the coverage you give. I think soccer is the greatest sport in the world, and I'm proof that it is continuing to grow in this country. I continue to grow my knowledge of soccer every day. Hopefully, one of these days, I want to actually write a longer version of what I stated above. That seems pretty long already. But, okay, Matthew. Thank you for your work. Hopefully, one of these days, I can call into a live show, discuss on the topics of the day. That would be great.
Could have done it tonight.
You could have. 201-430-2378. We had no calls. I hate no-call shows. I'm not a fan of no-call shows. But look, we're in the post-MLS Cup lull. I get it. And there's no national team news, really. But what kind of national team news is there? But thank you for the very nice email, Matthew. I think you are a certain type of soccer fan that is a new occurrence. I mean, I think a lot of people over the past 20 years have suddenly found soccer. But I don't know that that everybody goes from not playing at all and not caring at all ever in their lives to jumping in with both feet the way Matthew did. I think that's very cool. And I hope that we're the type of podcast that you can enjoy. We might get a little nerdy sometimes with breaking things down, but we want to keep the discussion engaging for everybody. Whether you're a brand new fan like Matthew or you've been following this game for 30 years, we want to try to find the perfect middle ground.
It's kind of a difficult line to walk sometimes. We talk about sometimes, are we being in depth enough? Are we being too geeky? More than anything, like we've always said, we just kind of do what the show we would want to listen to, and most of the time that's right.
Yes, we talk about In-N-Out Burger for 5 minutes, and then we move on to soccer.
Did we talk about Home Alone? By the way, while Christmas movies, if you can only watch one for the rest of your life, are you watching A Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, or What was my other one? I had one
Well,
more.
It's a Wonderful Life is the one that everybody talks about.
I wasn't going to give you that one, but that's okay. You can have that one. Okay, or Wonderful Life.
I wouldn't
one
have,
of them.
I wouldn't have It's a Wonderful Life. If those are my choices, Christmas Vacation wins handily in that situation. Or did you say Vacation or did you say Story?
No, Christmas Vacation or Christmas Story.
Oh, okay. I think Vacation beats out Story, although it's fairly close. I like Story a lot. It's just you get it so many times during the holiday season. It's just kind of
you really don't. You only get it once. It's just for 24 hours straight.
Right. Multiple showings. I think we have to touch on the MLS to Queens situation. Don Garber spoke at what was called a town hall meeting in Queens last night to a gathered throng. I don't know how many people were there. He made a big deal about how many jobs the stadium will generate. Talked about parkland and replacing grassy areas and refurbishing fields before they even start building. It looks like they're moving another step closer. He said the stadium will be 25,000 and with an expandable capacity of 35,000 if they decide to go that route. This is coming. This is happening. I got some information that said that maybe this wasn't quite the town hall meeting they made it out to be, Jared. But I do find it interesting. MLS
It was a town hall meeting. What was it then?
Well, that apparently, this was a report I saw on a Queens website said that if you were not for the stadium, they sequestered you into the basement and you watched via closed circuit television, which is really weird.
They Abu Ghrabbed like the non supporters.
It was bad, and there were a couple of protesters outside. So certainly not everybody is on board with this. I still don't see how it's not going to happen. I still don't see how it's not going to happen. It's going to be interesting.
Well, we did have one person write on our Facebook page. Did you see this about the night? This one that was there. And they said, my thoughts on the night out with Donnie. New York already has a team, the Cosmos, end of story. And he said, I had a question written on one of those damn cars, but nobody came to collect it. So here it goes. Will the stadium be a U.S. soccer development center as well? But my real question is how all this gets us, the U.S., closer to winning a World Cup. Is this stadium's job to get us closer to winning a World Cup?
No, and let's There are a lot of people in this country that's the first thing that comes to mind. Everything that we do as a soccer nation, is that going to get us closer to the World Cup? And I've even made the argument that while MLS academies will give us some benefit to the national team, hopefully that will develop kids that will be better players, and the national team will be better because of them. That's not why they exist. They don't exist for the national team. They exist to help generate talent for those clubs so they can either sell them and make money or bring them into the first team and win championships, just like every other club in the world. The national team is not, unless you want to do Bradenton, and I think that's probably going to come to a close in the next couple of years, Jared. Unless you want to do what's the French center that they Clairefontaine or something like that where Thierry Henry went, and they do have kind of a central location there. But other than that, most countries don't do it that way. Your club is your club, and you go play for them. And if you haven't good enough, you play for their club, and then you go play for the national team. So I don't think this has anything to do with that. And this isn't U.S. Soccer building the stadium. It's the new owners via MLS's work.
The same guy that wrote that on our Facebook page also said, well, he had a little different take on it, the downstairs bar. He says, interesting night with an overflow crowd, 500 in the theater, 100 plus downstairs, and people outside protesting.
Let me say this. The report I read made it sound like you were segregated based on whether you were for or against. I have no first-hand knowledge of that. I think
you think they asked him at the door?
Somebody said, the report said that there were some questions, like, are you for or against? And maybe they were directed. I don't know. It seems very odd that the theater could be completely empty, and they say, no, go downstairs because you're against this. That doesn't seem. I mean, it looks bad from MLS's perspective if they did put people who were against the stadium in the basement and didn't answer their questions, because that's the point of the town hall meeting. But I don't know that it happened. All right, are we done? I think we're finishing up this episode of the Best Soccer Show on the North American Soccer Network. Again, thanks to everybody who voted for us for the Stitcher Awards, despite the fact that we did not win. If you want to get emails in, it's show@bestsoccershow.com. We're on Twitter, Best Soccer Show. We're on Facebook.com/Best Soccer Show. What am I missing? Help me out.
Leave a voicemail if you have something you wanted to kind of, if you're at that town hall and you want to give us a different account of it, 201-430-2378.
Next week, everybody call in, 201-430-2378. I just said it back. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.